Hello, Internet! Magic Man here with a first look at Age of Wushu, the martial arts MMORPG brought to you by Snail Games. Now, this is the North American release for Age of Wulin. So, I'm doing this first look a little differently, too, because, to be honest, there's quite a bit to cover here. I'm not going to be able to cover all of it, obviously, but I want to give you a basic idea of the game so that you can take a look at some things here. So we're going to start with character creation. Let me ditch this character. Now, you can start with one of 4 dramas. They're depicted here. Basically, this is going to be your character's motivation, your storyline throughout the game. So your main storyline quests, they give you a little preview in the window. Some of them are restricted by certain schools or things like that. So take a look, make sure you read which one you're going to do. We're just going to take the first one here. It's kind of the recommended path right now in the closed beta. Now, Snail Games has given not only the people that paid for beta access the ability to access the game, but they have been giving out separate beta keys. So if you're lucky enough to get one of those, then you can jump in here as well. Character creation, pretty basic. You're not picking races or classes or anything. Age of Wushu takes place during the Ming Dynasty in China. This is when kind of like the Chinese feudal empire was pretty much at its peak, had the centralized court and east chamber. So it's pretty much the world of Jianghu, if I'm pronouncing that correctly. I'm pretty sure I am. I gotta brush up on my Mandarin, though. So, as you can see, you do have quite a bit of customization. You can pick faces, you have sliders for everything from eyes to individual lips to ear size. You have the ability to pick and match a few clothing pieces here. Notice again, you haven't picked a race, you haven't picked a class. That just doesn't happen. That's not this game. There's also no levels. Yeah, if you didn't know that, we'll get to that in a little bit. That's one of the big billing features for the game, is the fact that there's no levels. Everything is skill-based. You're not limited by a particular class type or something like that. So, we're gonna just randomize here, give him the old Magic Man moniker, and jump into the game. Need to give that one more N. Perfect. And away we go. Now, one of the things you'll notice right away, obviously, is the art style. Very reminiscent of things like Perfect World, has that kind of feel to it, but in my opinion, I think this is a little bit prettier. So you do have 2 control schemes you're going to pick right off the bat. You can pick typical WASD, or you can pick WASD with the mouse, which is what I picked and what the game selects. Pay attention here. We're going to go through a little bit of the tutorial. Again, not all of it, because I don't want the first look to be boring. I want you to see some of the game. You have the chance to go through the tutorial here when you start up. But basically, here's the gist of it in a nutshell. You do gain experience, but that experience is then converted by time. So the longer you play, the more this experience will convert over. And then you're able to use those converted experience points to kind of channel your skills and level up individual skills, whether they be actual combat skills, innate skills, and various skills throughout the game. So you can also do this while you're offline. So experience you gain can be converted offline until the experience is wasted. Now, there is a big difference here between people that pay and people that don't, and that's your conversion rate, as you see right here, showing you a little bit of the book, taking your experience, making them cultivation points, using the cultivation points to level up your skills and your abilities. It was actually a little bit confusing when you first get in there, so don't be overwhelmed. There's a lot of menus, a lot of buttons. The tutorial does a pretty good job of taking you through it. But here's what's going on. Basically, you get scripts, which are your different abilities. You click on and learn the scripts like you just saw, and then you have to cultivate those to level up the individual skills. Throw them in your hotbar, away you go. So you'll have basic empty-handed combat, just, Kung Fu or Shaolin, anything like that. You'll have dagger combat, sword combat. You will have these different styles of combat, and you're learning skills from these scripts for all of these various styles. A little later in the tutorial, you're not going to see it in the first look, but if you play it, once you've completed most of this, you will pick a school. Now, it's okay to think of that school kind of like a class, because it does kind of dictate a few different things of how you're going to play the game. But there's basically 8 martial arts schools that you'll have to choose from: Shaolin, Wudang, MEA, Tang, Beggar Sect, Scholar, Royal, and Blissful. Some of those are considered justice, some of those are considered evil, some of them are considered neutral, and they do have, some of them are gender specific. So you'll want to read each one and pick the way you want to play. That's what the game's all about here. So this is the first real combat that you get into. It's kind of the combat tutorial. And this is where you learn that combat in this game is kind of like a rock, paper, scissors match. You have basic attacks, you have basic defense, and you have what's called a feint, which is the ability to kind of break somebody's block down. So we're going to learn this ability here, drag it to the hotbar, and then we're going to use it. Now this is a defensive buff, so we're going to use it before we talk to the trainer here. And then he wants us to defend using that buff. And all you have to do to defend, which I didn't do well there, I wasn't quite ready, is just hold down the right mouse button. Then you can still shift around with WASD and face your opponent. But that's your primary block, is the right mouse button. Now, you'll get various skills, as you're going to see here when we talk to the attack trainer. This is just our standard empty-handed, bare-fisted type attacks. And we're just going to repeatedly do that against his block for a minute or two here. And he's going to start giving us some new abilities. He's going to teach us about feint, which is the ability to break down the block of your opponent, leaving them open to another attack. So, we'll use the script. We can do a little preview if you want to see what it looks like and what it does, what it costs to use. We'll learn it, and we will assign it. Perfecto. And now we're ready to go. So our instructor throws up his block. We're going to drop a feint, which knocks him off his feet and leaves him open to attacks. So think of it as kind of a pyramid, which you'll actually see here in this tutorial. A pyramid of attacks and defense and feints back and forth, one leading to the other. It does get a little complex because you will have multiple attacks, multiple feints, and then you'll be using your defend in there as well. So it can get very complex. And again, if you're not used to this type of game, I certainly am not, take the time to learn it and give it a fair shot. Don't get overwhelmed by the menus. One thing that people are going to have a problem with is that it is a PvP-centric game. In fact, when you log in, it gives you a warning that you are on a PvP server. You really don't have a choice. So, hey, tough. That's why Jet Li endorses it, I guess. What we're trying to do here is we've learned a special ability. If you look in where the arrow's pointing in the upper left, you'll see my health, you'll see my chi, my flight meter will eventually show up there. We're building up rage in those little flames through blocking and attacking and building up combos. The particular ability we just learned requires 3, so once we get 3 rage, we'll trigger this ability. And they're kind of neat cutscene type abilities. They're pretty badass, actually. So there we go, we've got enough to use it. There we go, walk backward in 7 stars. There it is, and he wants us to use it one more time to complete this training. You will learn more of those as the game progresses, as your skills progress, as you level up your skills by using your experience points. Again, your character does. There's the pyramid I was telling you about. Attacking, defending, and feinting back and forth. Your character does not level up. You level up the skills, whether they're active or passive, that you want to learn, the weapons you want to use, level up those skills, and that way you're playing the game the way you want to. Actually, pretty cool system. We've seen it kind of implemented in some other games, not nearly to the freeform that you see in Age of Wushu. It does take some getting used to, though. So in addition, you do have typical quest-type mechanics. Talk to somebody, go do something, come on back. In this case, we're going to go for a little walk here after we learn our meditate skill so that we can heal. I'm going to duck off to the side a little bit just so you can see the animation. Now, when you do heal, you are still open to attack. So again, PvP server, you're open to attack when you do that. Perfect. And off we go. So you can see as we're completing quests, we're gaining reputation, we're gaining experience that then gets converted over and is used to channel and level up the different abilities. One thing I did like that I don't know if you'll see here, I don't remember if I caught footage of it for the final cut here, is if you walk through or bump into NPCs, they do say something, they do kind of get pissed. Bring up the map here. Nice interface showing you where your quest targets are. The hotbars I found as I got later in the game, I would customize the hotbar that you see at the bottom, not the very bottom. That's kind of like your bags and your skill book and things like that, the bar on the top. I found myself customizing each hotbar to what weapon set I was using. So in this case, you see my barehanded abilities. Later on in the first look, I used daggers because I ended up going with one of the schools that allowed me to use daggers, kind of like a rogue type build. So here we're going to go and touch this plant here. And away we go to a little cutscene. Now, I can jump right now, but that's all I can do, just a single jump. And I bring that up because if you've watched any of the Age of Wushu or Age of Wulin trailers or gameplay, you've seen a very stylistic, flying around, crouching tiger, hidden dragon type combat. And you do get to do that, actually. Right here, we're going to learn our first flight ability, and you will learn more of those as the game progresses. This first flight ability, obviously, it's the one everybody wants. Double jump, baby. Aw, yeah. A game with double jump gets a thumbs up in Magic Man's book. So we'll learn double jump, and then we'll use it to get out of the well. Then I'm going to cut it and jump forward a little bit, because the rest of the tutorial, there's about a 7... You can see the book in the upper right. There's about a 7-step all the way through to selecting your actual school. I'm going to skip that because you guys can play that. I want to jump ahead and show you some actual combat and show you some of the alternate channeling things that you can do to level up abilities and things like that. So, let's get out of the well and jump ahead. Alright, so now I'm back on my original Magic Man. And you can see we've got the quest in the right-hand side of the screen there. You will notice that I am auto-pathing. Yes, not a huge fan of auto-path when you can just click a link in a quest target and boom, have it take you to there. But I actually found it useful in this game because while I was auto-pathing, I would flip through different menus and different panes on those menus to try and learn a little bit more, because it just seems like you're so inundated with menus while you're learning how to play the game. You really should take that opportunity while you're auto-pathing. It's a pretty good auto-path, but it does take the long way around. It's not going to shortcut anything. So you can see my hotbar there. I've switched it because now I'm using daggers. I've also picked up in the upper left corner, you can barely see it, it's in the lower right of my actual character's portrait up there. I have a flight meter now because not only can I double jump, but I can do a type of triple jump, I can do a mid-air type dash thing, and they all drain your flight meter. So I've picked up a number of different flight mechanics that you can intertwine with your skills to create some really, really nifty combat. So let's beat up on a few of these guys for a little while. So I'm just going to use some basic dagger abilities to show you how the animations look using my defense. There's my little triple jump straight up. And you can see that I'm using a combination of feints, blocking, using the feints to drop their defense, and then countering with an actual attack after that. So you do have to be mindful of the animations for your opponent, right? It's not just a basic tab target, hit some abilities type game. You do have to watch, see when your opponent is blocking, what type of ability are they going to try to use, and try to anticipate and play a little strategy game against them. So here I'll zip away from them, let them come after me while my abilities are on cooldown, jump back into combat, start my combo meter up, and start kicking some ass with some daggers. Pretty slick combat. I did like it. It did take a little bit of getting used to, though. There's been people that have been comparing this to, like, Terra, or I even saw comparisons to some other games. They're just flat out wrong. I mean, I've played Terra extensively. This is nothing like Terra. It's got its own unique type feel to it. I did enjoy it, but again, it takes time to get used to it. I also have 2 buffs that you'll see me casting in and out here. One gives me a speed increase, and then one gives me a regen increase as well. Now I'm building up rage here because I do have an ability I want to show you after I just flew into combat there. Oh yeah. You see another character running by there. One of the cool features in the game, as far as the graphics settings right now in the beta, they're a little bit wonky. For the most part, they work. I did notice that when you try to shift resolution, sometimes the settings will say that you've selected that resolution, but the resolution that's being displayed isn't quite right. I've also noticed that sometimes if you try to shift between windowed and full screen, it will crash the client. So a couple bugs there, but for the most part, not too bad. Speaking of bugs, if you download the game for the closed beta, you're lucky enough to get into it, it's about a 7 gig download. One of the things that I had going on, and I did see going on in the forums, is that although the install will build a desktop icon for you to access the game, if you double click on it, some people, including myself, were getting like the same file error 11 times, and then finally it would give up. What the fix for it is, pro tip here, go into the actual program files, launch it from there once, and then your desktop icon will have no problem. So I'm going to try and build up a little rage here so you guys can see one of my dagger abilities. I do like the ability to fight multiple targets, and there we go, Shallow the Whale. Badass. I do like the ability to fight multiple targets like this and still keep some strategy involved instead of trying to find an oh shit panic button and save yourself. I'm going to jump out of combat here. And now I've given myself the chance to regen a little bit since I'm low on resources and finish off combat. Now my quest target's up here, so let's go ahead and talk to him. This is where we're going to learn another way to kind of customize things and use those experience points to channel points into different skills. This one's actually pretty cool. Before we start this, I was talking about the graphics. One of the cool features, if you're on a lower end PC, you can press F9 and all players will disappear. Their names will still show up, so you can see that there's players around you or interacting with things, but their character models aren't drawn. So little help there if you're on a lower end PC. Lower end PC. So right now I'm going to learn my little meditation skill and chill with my sensei. Yeah, I know. That was Japanese. Deal with it. Shifu. How's that? All in all, I do think it's a pretty game. As far as the graphics go, I found myself, when I'm autopathing too, just spinning the camera around, looking at environments, looking at like Shaolin type buildings in the distance. It's very, very pretty. Alright, so right now we're going to take some of our experience and we're going to try and do a team practice. Now I'm doing this solo, so forgive me, but if you were doing this in a group, in the upper left you see that I'm the only one being scored right now. It would score you in relationship to anybody that was in the group. And this is kind of like a little quick time event. So you're going to see it'll flash what button presses you should be making, kind of flashes in and out of letterboxing to just accent the animation. And there's going to be 10 rounds of this. Now, I'm not going to show you all 10 rounds because it takes some time and obviously does get a little on the boring side for you as the spectator. But the patterns do get more and more complex, longer and longer. Usually, for this particular one, it was just a combination of up, down, left, and right, and J and K. So you press those in the right order, you're gaining points. Very, very stylistic game. You can see my points being gathered up there. Now, I know we're just scratching the surface of Age of Wushu. I'm not pretending to put together a full comprehensive guide to the game here for you. Again, it's just a first look. I'm giving you as much as I can so that when you pick the game up, one, you won't be intimidated by it. Because it can be a little overwhelming, like I've said. And two, you have a basic feel for how the game functions, what you're leveling up, since your character isn't, how to use your skills, how the combat works, how the flight mechanic works. I'm just trying to give you a broad overview of a game that's extremely complex, and we're only diving into 20 or so minutes of it. So forgive me for this not being like a hand-holding guide for you. You're going to have to figure that out on your own. I just wanted to give you as much as I could without this first look being 7 hours long. Next round, here we go. Now you can see the patterns becoming longer. Guilds are going to play a really big part in the game, so it is definitely recommended that you find a guild. In fact, right after you choose a school and you start interacting with your school's leaders and things like that, one of the quests is going to push you to join or create a guild of your own. It's definitely a huge, huge help if you're in a guild. Chefs, you're going to make a ton of money in this game as far as selling things to people. Yeah, that's all I need to say. Look into being a chef if you want to. I think they're going to be able to make money hand over fist. One last thing I want to say about the game itself. I can't remember what I was going to say. That's what happens when you're recording first looks. It happens. What the hell was I going to say? Oh, I remember. I had mentioned buying things, and I wanted to mention the cash shop here. There's an article on the website, MMOBomb.com, about some of the cash shop details that they've released. Definitely check it out. I think there's some things in there that are going to upset some people. I'm not too sure on a couple things myself. I can tell you, though, one of the things we talked about earlier as far as converting points, that's one of the things that cash payers, they have an advantage. They can convert experience points over at 100% levels, where the free-to-play players are only going to be able to do so at 70% levels. And there's some other limitations, so definitely something you want to keep in mind, you want to take a look at if you're going to pick up Age of Wushu and really get into it. It may be one of those games that for you, if you're playing it to that extent, it may be worth the purchase of the box, because that does get you some benefits when they're selling the actual software, or the cash shop, some things you may want to take advantage of in there. So, if you haven't gotten a chance to take a look at the game, I hope you enjoyed this first look. Please put your comments below. We're going to jump ahead to the end of the training session here. Please put your comments below. Make sure you click like. Come on over to MMOBomb.com. Check out all the other great programming we have there. If you have been lucky enough to either buy your way into the beta through the Elite package, or you managed to snag one of the keys that Snail Games gave away, put your comments below. What do you think? How long have you played it? What are your thoughts? Is it something that's going to stick with you? I think it's very stylistic. I enjoy the combat for as little as I've actually been able to do so far. I do like the Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon type feel to it, and the jumping around and the flying and the bouncing off of walls and things like that. It's definitely something I'm going to check out a little more. Since it's so PvP centric, though, I don't know if it's going to end up being the game for me, but we'll check it out. I'm not adverse to PvP. I just prefer PvE over PvP. So we'll see if there's enough in this game to really capture me being a PvE kind of guy. Well, until next time, guys, there's Shallow the Whale to sign this off. Stay safe. Come on over to MMOBomb.com, and we'll see you out on the servers.